everyone. So today we're going to be taking a look at why your future spouse will be so attracted to you. So we have the Five of Swords, we have the Ten of Wands, we have the World, we have Echo, which is one of my favorite cards in that deck. I think it's called, let's see, the Wild Child Oracle. I got it from Etsy, but it's so pretty. Anyway, we have Otter, Initiations, Be Open Through This Transitional Time. We have She Who Stands, Valencia, Resolute, Determined, and I think that's Implacable. I could be pronouncing that wrong. We have Field Mouse, Success, Believe in Yourself, and Dare to Dream Big. Okay. So there's definitely a theme here about you sort of being like a fighter. You know, like you have tenacity, you have resilience. So you may have been, up until you met your future spouse, someone who had been, I'm hearing, put through the ringer. So you may have just had a very challenging time period, or you may have felt like that was just a reoccurring theme in your life where it was just challenge after challenge, or you're someone who's very goal-oriented. And, you know, maybe you partially kind of put that pressure upon yourself to be successful, to be someone who accomplishes a lot. And so, you know, I've had those moments myself where I'm like, oh man, I feel like I'm having to work so hard. But then I'm like, you know, I'm kind of putting that pressure on myself because I'm the one setting these goals. But you know, you may just be an ambitious person where you can't like help it. Like you're always trying to push forward. You're always trying to grow. You're always trying to be better. You're not afraid of competition, or you're not afraid of things being hard. And if someone tells you you can't do something, you're like, I'm going to make you watch me do it twice. You know, like you're that kind of person. I feel like you're a force. And I apologize, you know, for the Real Housewives examples, but it reminds me of this scene on Real Housewives of New York, and it's an old one, where Bethany Frankel, she is like, I think the most successful Real Housewife in terms of like someone who started with very little and grew like an empire. I mean, you know, she's very wealthy now, and she didn't, you know, start off that way when Housewives began. But anyway, she was having a conversation with her realtor or her broker, and he was telling her, you need to list your apartment for X amount of dollars. And she's like, no, I have the nicest apartment in this building. I've decorated it or renovated it better than, you know, any other apartment in this building. And I know I can get more for it. And so they go back and forth, and she just won't back down. She's like, this is what you're going to list it for, and you should be able to sell it for that because you're a good realtor or broker, whatever. And he isn't happy about it, but he's like, I've never met a woman like you. You know, like she just wouldn't back down. And so his feathers are ruffled, but he does what she says. And I don't even think it's like an hour or so later, and he calls her and tells her, I was able to sell the apartment for exactly what you were asking for, and it was a cash offer. So if she had listened to him and listed the apartment for lower than what she wanted, she would have missed out on, you know, a nice chunk of money. But she just wasn't willing to back down. And she even tells him, see, I told you you were good at your job. And I liked that because, you know, partly it was her saying, I have this nice apartment. I've made it beautiful. People will want this. But part of it was also her saying, you need to trust yourself that you can do a good job. You know, like this is your thing. I wouldn't have hired you if you weren't the best. And so it was like her sticking to her guns, but also, you know, like encouraging him, hyping him up, like, I believe you can do this. I hired you to do this, so do it. You know, and she's very blunt, you know, like, so just do it. And so you kind of have that energy where not only do you like believe in yourself and you stick to your convictions and you're like, I don't care if it's hard. I'm going to do it anyway. I don't care if there's a lot of competition. I'm going to do it anyway. You know, like no one can tell you nothing in terms of like your capabilities and what you believe that you can accomplish, you know, like you just have that drive, you have that grit, you get your teeth into stuff and you just run with it, you know, like you're someone who, I don't know, it's just like that tenacity, that word keeps coming up over and over again. And not only do you do all that, but then at the same time, I feel like you being you is inspiring to other people, you know, in terms of like your work ethic and your belief in yourself and your unwillingness to quit, you know, or to back down from a challenge, you know. But at the same time, I think you're also very encouraging to other people. So you're not like arrogant about it. You're not like, oh, I'm special, I'm better than everyone else. It's more of like, I know I can do this. I believe in myself. And I hope Jenny over here, Jenny, I hope you believe in yourself too. Mike, I hope you believe in yourself too. You know, it's just about believing in yourself and doing the best that you can. And if it's tough, it's tough. But if you work at it hard enough, if you believe in yourself, if you are flexible, like you can do it. If it's meant for you, you can do it. And so I feel like you're just a force. And your future spouse loves that. They love that you're a force. They love that you aren't someone who gives up so easily. And I feel like they know that you'll put that effort into the relationship too, because you put your whole heart into things. We see this with the World card. That's why you're so successful, because you just put your heart into it. You just will throw yourself into something, and once you decide and once you commit, you are all in. And like the little field mouse, like small but mighty. You may be like physically like petite. You don't have to be, but for some of you, you may be like physically petite, or like Bethany Frankel, like she's very thin. There may be like something about you physically where there's like a fragility, or maybe you have like very soft features or like delicate features. Maybe even something about, maybe you have like, for some of you, maybe you have like very clear skin. It's almost like porcelain, like you could just break it, you know? Again, it may just be something about your physical appearance where you're kind of like the cute little field mouse, you know? But then you're tough, you're scrappy, you know? Like, yeah, like I said, you're a force. And with the Otter card here and Echo, I do feel like part of their attraction is difficult for them to verbalize or explain or put into words, even to you. Like if you say like, why were you so into me, or, you know, whatever, I feel like that just may be hard for them to explain, because it's almost like a gravitational pull and just this sort of gut feeling that you were the one. And otters are very sweet, you know, like they like hold hands in the water so they don't get separated when they take their little naps. But I also think of otters as performers. You know, I feel like at least the otters that I have seen tend to really love attention. Like they like to show off. When you go to an aquarium and you see them, I'm like, you know, I don't think all animals like to be held captive, but I actually think otters might enjoy putting on a show for people. I do think they like being observed. You know, I'm sure not every animal likes to be observed, but I feel like otters love that attention. They soak it up. And so there's something about you where I think that they like, this is very specific, so I want to make sure I put this into words correctly. They like the side of you that comes out when they give you attention. So when it's just you two and you're very like focused on each other and there's not a lot of other people around, or you're having like a private moment, they like that side to you, because that's when the kind of like warrior, you know, type of persona, this fighter, tough persona, you know, kind of melts away, and they see this sort of raw, beautiful soul that just wants to be loved. And I think that's something that maybe you deep down kind of struggle with a little bit. This need to be good enough, this need to prove yourself, this need to win, this need to show yourself over and over again that you have what it takes, that, you know, I think you just may be someone who is very like success focused, whatever that looks like to you, right? And I think sometimes your identity gets wrapped up in that, and you forget that your self-worth has to be kind of separated from that. And, you know, I think, like I said, you're a fighter, so if you do fail, I think you get back up and you try again. But I do think it's a wound to your ego when it does happen. And so with your future spouse, they like that you kind of put your armor down, you put your walls down, you put your guard down, and this beautiful, soft, sweet side to you comes out that just wants to be loved, and that wants to love. Like, I want to, that's a Nicki Minaj lyric. I just want to love and be loved. And the way that she raps that line or sings that line, I can't really remember. I always like made my like throat clench up a little bit, because it's just the feeling behind it, you know? And I think so many people can relate to that one simple line, I just want to love and be loved. And I think at the end of the day, that's all that you want too. And so, you know, you may be very success focused, you know, driven, but at the end of the day, if we stripped away all of that, I think that at your core, that's what you truly want, is just to love and be loved. And you have like this heart of gold. And I think that you are equally like inspiring to them and endearing to them, but also a little bit terrifying, you know, like you are almost like this storm that they can't look away from. It's like, and it's almost like, you know how you can kind of sense a storm is coming before it actually comes? There's something about your energy that they are very much drawn to. And I think that they know you're going to come in and disrupt things for them. And that doesn't mean like a negative way, but they know, I think, intuitively, pretty early on, that you are the one. And that's that disruption, because when you start to try to navigate, how do I share my life with somebody? How do I make space for someone in my life to the point to where we're going to be married? Well, that brings a lot of changes, a lot of changes. And so I feel like they sense that early on. And that's the part that's hard to put into words, like how they just feel so drawn to you energetically. You know, it's not so much about the way that you look, it's just something about your energy, like being in your presence and wanting to soak that in. And I think that they love too that you have your own opinions about stuff, and you don't just agree with everything that they say, and that you don't put on airs to try to be like a version of you that you think they will like, you know, or the type of man or woman that they will like, you know. You're just yourself, and you aren't afraid, like I said, to disagree and to assert your opinion and your beliefs. And yeah, I think that they like that a lot. And even just as simple as, what are you in the mood, you know, to eat tonight for dinner? Like, you'll have your own opinion. You won't be like, whatever you want is fine, every time they ask you, what do you want? You know, you're very, very capable of stating what you want, and you state what you want very clearly. And you're not jealous, and you're not intimidated about anyone else, you know. You're not obsessing over whether they could be talking to someone else or dating someone else or their past, like you just don't care, you know, you just don't care, because it's very much this energy of like, I know what I have to offer, and I know that I'm a catch. Do you see me? Do you see my worth? Because if you don't, I need to go. And they like that about you. They like that side of you that's very unapologetically, authentically you. And, you know, you're like, you can take it or leave it, but I'm not going to sit here and try to convince you of my worth. So it's that confidence that you have. And it's a very like, it's not an in-your-face kind of bravado that you have. It's just like, it's just the truth. It's just the truth. I know my worth, period. It's just fact. I know this. Physically, they are very much attracted to something about your bone structure. So it could be that you have, you know, like nice angles to your face, or maybe you have like the soft features. But something about like your bone structure and your body shape that they really, really like. So whatever your body type is, very much attracted to that. Also your brows and just some of the facial expressions that you make. Something about maybe the way that you smile or the way that you look when you're concentrating on something, or when you're daydreaming, or when you're laughing, but just something about your facial expressions. And then for some of you, they really like your wrists or your collarbones or your ankles, like body features that people wouldn't maybe typically notice that much. Because there's just this kind of idea of them sort of soaking up this like full picture of you and liking what they see. Also, if you have a certain hairstyle that you tend to wear a lot, maybe you wear your hair down or like in loose waves, or maybe you like hair accessories, or maybe there's something just special about the way that you style your hair, or maybe you're one of those people that looks really nice when you wake up and have the bed head. It may just depend, but however you do your hair, they really, really like. Now we will use our grab bag just to get some additional messages about your future spouse. And these are more specific, so if something doesn't resonate, as always, please leave it. This is, part of the reading where I do think you have to be a little bit more discerning that it's a general reading. I'm feeling 2 more. That was 1, 2. Okay. Okay, so your future spouse is someone who is well-dressed and stylish. They will wine and dine you, or you will have a traditional courtship. So that's where you go out on like formal dates, it's not casual. Whoops. They could have hazel eyes. Their love language, or one of their love languages, could be acts of service, so they like to do things for you. That's a good one to have if you live together, like someone who's gonna make you breakfast in the morning, or make your coffee for you, or fill up your car with gas, like little things, do your laundry for you, things like that. Okay. They love the outdoors, very outdoorsy. So maybe they like to go camping or fishing or hikes, or they like to take walks. And we have here, they love music, or they are a musician. It could also mean that you two bond over music. Maybe you have a similar taste in music, or maybe they just have really good taste in music and they introduce you to new artists, that kind of thing. That was one thing I really kind of appreciated about my husband when we were talking. I ended up just making a playlist because he had all of these great recommendations for me based upon me liking Lana Del Rey so much, and that was like very nice, you know, like a sweet little thing. So yeah, you guys could, you know, end up bonding over music. Okay. All right, that concludes your reading. I hope it resonated. I hope it brought you some comfort. Please consider liking, commenting, sharing, or subscribing. Hitting the notification bell lets you know whenever I upload. The easiest way to support the channel is to watch the ads. I know they can probably be a little bit annoying, but you can always mute them and just have them on in the background. So I really appreciate anyone who does that as well. I also want to say a huge thank you to everyone who has watched the ads already, been a regular viewer, donated on Venmo, tipped with SuperThanks, or just commented or liked a video. It means the world to me and to Miss Gracie, of course. I'm wishing everyone the best as always. Please take care, and I hope to see you in my next reading.
Pas de soleil, 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 pas de soleil.
Welcome to your reading. So today we're taking a look at why your future spouse is so attracted to you. So we have the Hanged One, the Nine of Swords, we have the Ace of Cups, we have She Who Creates, creativity, originality, and spontaneity. We have Kangaroo, courage, you are being tested, have faith and stand in your truth, and we have Flight. Okay, it's coming up, I think, very strongly here that you are someone who is very nurturing. You're someone who's loving, you're very affectionate, you have this sweet, soft, sentimental heart. You know, like you're someone who makes a big deal about milestone moments in the relationship. You know, like you make a big deal about, I don't even think this just applies to your love life. This could be just in general, but you make a big deal about someone's birthday or holidays or, you know, just special moments. You know, I feel like you have a real appreciation for the idea of the best things in life are the memories that we make and the special moments that we share with our loved ones. You know, I feel like you really value connection. And you understand that when you strip away everything else, what really matters in life if not love? And, you know, I think sometimes when someone is very nurturing or very loving, that can sometimes melt into codependency or smothering or being clingy. But with you all having the Flight card here, that's what's so beautiful about your energy, is that you can love something, but you know how they say if you love something enough, let it go and you can trust that it will come back to you. It's so beautiful because you're very loving and very nurturing, but your future spouse is telling me you're not controlling. You don't smother me. You give me space and you give me freedom and you let me be my own individual. But yet, you put so much value on our connection. It's almost like you have so much faith in the relationship and what you two mean to each other. It's like that invisible tether, that red string of fate. Like you trust that even if they were to go to the other side of the world, that feeling wouldn't change. That love would still be there and that love would always connect you. And so they love that. They love that you're nurturing and supportive and loving, but also that you're willing to let them pursue what they want to pursue. And you kind of have this energy of like, we love each other, so I'll follow you anywhere. And I know you'll follow me anywhere. I know that what we have is real. And it's not based in anything superficial. And so what we have is unbreakable. And I think they just love that. They love your attitude towards love and relationships and how much you value connection in life. You're not focused on, like I said, the superficial. You're focused on the feeling. So with the Hanged One here, you have such a beautiful perspective on life, a beautiful philosophy about you. And they love how you love. That's what I love how you love me. That's what I'm attracted to, how you treat me, how you make me feel. That's what I love about you. It's not that there aren't superficial things that they're drawn to. We'll get into physically why they're attracted to you. But if you strip all that other stuff away, right? Because they're telling me you're gorgeous. But if they stripped all that other stuff away, it's not about anything else but the feeling. It's the feeling. It's how you treat them, how you love them, that means the most. And so there's not this anxiety, right? There's not this pressure of like, I have to be a certain way. There's a sense of comfort, a sense of ease with you. And they just keep telling me that over and over again. I love the way that you love me. I don't think anyone has ever made them feel so loved. They can trust it with you, They don't think that you have some kind of ulterior motive or that you're trying to manipulate them in some way. It just feels so honest. And they're telling me it's so rare. It's so rare. I've never had anyone treat me as well as you treat me. And there's something about your mind. I really feel like you have just maybe like a vivid imagination. A lot of you, I wouldn't be surprised if you are an artistic person or a creative person in some capacity, because, I do think artists have a very unique way of looking at the world, and that's part of what makes their art so compelling, whatever medium you use. And I use art in a very general term, so I could be talking about, or this could be referring to, writing, it could be referring to painting, knitting, sculpting, it's so many different ways that you can be creative. But yeah, it could even be through your style, your aesthetic. But there's something unique about your perspective and your mind and how your mind works. I feel like there's a lot of intellectual compatibility between you two, They love hearing about what's going on in your mind. You know, they just love to talk to you. I think more than anything, they love when you share your thoughts, when you share what you're thinking about. And there's something about you that makes them feel brave, that makes them want to take a leap of faith, you know? They may be someone who's typically like very cautious in love, but with you, it's like, I'm throwing caution to the wind here. And a lot of that, again, is based upon how you treat them, how you make them feel. And they're telling me nothing is ever stagnant with you. You know, you keep them on their toes. They like that. And you may be someone who goes through like different phases. This is a more specific message. But you know how like pop stars will go through like different eras? Like Taylor Swift right now, she's on the Eras tour, you know, but like she reinvents herself with like each album, like her style changes and stuff. There's something like that about you where you go through these phases, and I think it's kind of fun for them to see you go through those phases and see how you evolve and change. And I think that is, again, kind of confirming you may be a creative or artistic person. Physically, they absolutely love your style. Like the way that you dress, the way that if you wear makeup, the way you do your makeup, or the way you style your hair, they love it. They love it so much. And they also love the sound of your voice, your speaking voice. You may be someone who sings, but they really love just hearing you talk. So maybe you have an accent to them, or, you know, maybe you just have a nice voice in general, but they love your voice. They love the sound of your voice. They also love the shape of your eyes. So they're telling me specifically the shape. They're not really focusing on the color here. Not to say that you don't have a pretty eye color, but there's something about the shape of your eyes that they really, really love. I'm also hearing something about either your nose or your lips that are nice. And it could be kind of the combination of the two, or you know how some people's nose like fits their face really well? So it could be something about that. Like you may not like your nose at all, but there's something about, I guess, the proportion of your features that's nice to them. Again, like you may not feel that way, but this is what they are attracted to about you. They also really love your shoulders. And there's something there too. This is a very specific message. This may only apply to like one or two of you, but there may be something about you where you felt like the ugly duckling when you were a kid. And you kind of have grown into your features, you know, like you have come to a place to where you feel like you know how to style yourself now, or you've worked on, you know, your self-love, or you've made peace maybe with certain features that you didn't like about yourself, but now you love those features about yourself. There's something about that where they'll look at you and say, like, how could you have ever hated your nose? You have the cutest nose. Or how could you have ever thought you were ugly? Like, you're so beautiful, you're so gorgeous. So there's something about that. Something about, like, I think especially if you're a woman watching this, I'm hearing like you had to make peace with your femininity. You had to reach some kind of peace with it. That's going to mean different things to all of you, but that message did come through. And again, like that may just apply to like one or two people, but it did come through, so I wanted to mention it. And you know, on this Nine of Swords, I'm really drawn to how there's crystals on here. I think both of you honestly have a way of easing each other's anxieties. I think both of you are a very calming presence to each other. Like, as much fun as you have together, I think you also bring a sense of calm to each other. And that's something they really, really love, I think, is just the easiness of that with you, the comfortability. And I think that goes back to you being a very nurturing, affectionate, I'm hearing lover, like, so you may not be like that in all areas of your life with everyone, but with your future spouse, you are so nurturing. If you're a woman, like, you have a very strong maternal energy, but again, it's not smothering, because that maternal energy, it can become smothering, it can. But with you having this balance here with the Flight card, it's like, no, like, I'm nurturing, but I'm supportive. I'm encouraging, but I'm not manipulative. So it's a very healthy expression of that divine feminine. And, your future spouse, if you're a feminine, if they've dated feminines, they may have dealt with distorted feminines in the past, debilitated feminine energy. And so to be able to have that healthy expression of feminine energy, I think is something they're going to really appreciate about you. And I think you two balance each other out really, really well. So if you are a feminine, I think your future spouse is someone who is very much in a healthy masculine expression. And so it's that yin and yang energy that's really beautiful. I'm sorry, this message just came through, but they also really love your legs, something about your legs. So maybe you have long legs, or maybe you have a nice shape to your legs. I've got little chicken legs myself. But yeah, maybe you have nice legs, or maybe they're really soft, maybe you have really smooth legs. And even looking at this Flight card again, and all of the birds here, I do think this is confirming that idea of you having a beautiful speaking voice, or you're a good singer, and them liking that about you. But I also feel like you two communicate really well together. And I think that they really are drawn to that. Because remember, I said intellectually, you two are very compatible. And so one of the things they're going to love the most, I think, especially on your first couple of dates together, your first couple of encounters, they're going to really, really love how well-spoken you seem, or how easy it is to talk to you, how you two have a natural rapport, a good banter, you can joke around with each other. There's not a lot of awkward silences, it's like you bypass that awkward silence phase that can sometimes happen in the early stages of dating. But yeah, they love how easy it is to talk to you and how fun it is to talk to you. I think having conversations with you is one of their favorite things. They just love to talk to you, and they think that you have so much to say. And I think that they're very drawn to, again, your mind. They think you have a very creative, unique, original way of thinking. And they're very enamored by that. Okay, now we will use our grab bag here to get some additional specific messages about your future spouse, little clues about them. Now, these are more specific, so if something doesn't resonate, please just leave it. This is the part of the reading where you have to be more discerning, because there's, many of you watching. So just use your intuition. I do want to upload some more intuition checks. I kind of forgot in January. So I'm gonna make sure I do that this month. I feel like February I've been a little bit behind because I was sick, and then I took a trip, and then I had some doctor's appointments. I had one this morning too. So I'm playing catch up, so just bear with me. Okay, let's see. We have they want marriage. So this means, and I know you're watching a future spouse reading right now, but this means that when you two meet, they are ready for marriage. Okay, I'm not saying they're going to want to immediately marry you on the first date, but this isn't they're commitment phobic, or they are going to take a really long time to propose. They're going to put it off, drag their feet, you know, nothing like that. They're going to say, yeah, I'm looking for a life partner, you know. They could have brown eyes. They could have blonde hair. They are muscular. They adore you. And it says here they're on the thin side. So thin but muscular. So they're on the thinner side, but you know, like they have like a toned body. Very affectionate. So yeah, that's mutual then. Both of you will be very affectionate with each other. And you know, I will say this. I've never been like a touchy-feely person, but with my husband, I can't like stop. Like I just want to like pinch him, squeeze him. Like, you know, sometimes it's just about being with the right person and feeling comfortable. Like I've never, again, like been touchy-feely, but like I want to hug him all the time. So even if you haven't been affectionate in past relationships, don't think that means that you're not going to be affectionate with your future spouse, because I feel like they bring out that side to you. Okay, they love the outdoors. I think group 1 got that message too. So they could like camping, fishing, hiking, anything outdoors related, they could be into. Or it could just be as simple as they like to go for walks outside, or they like to sit out on the deck and drink their coffee in the morning, that kind of thing. Doesn't mean that they have to be super rugged. Okay. And they are the same age as you or close in age. Now, that's a bit subjective, that close in age. That kind of depends upon your mindset. Like maybe to you that means 1 or 2 years older than you, or 1 or 2 years younger, or that means, oh, we're only a few months apart. So that just kind of depends upon your definition of that. But they could also be the exact same age as you. All right, that concludes your reading. I hope it resonated. I hope it brought you some comfort. Please consider liking, commenting, sharing, or subscribing. Hitting the notification bell lets you know whenever I upload. The easiest way to support the channel is to watch the ads. I know they can probably be a little bit annoying, but you can always mute them and just have them on in the background. So I really appreciate anyone who does that as well. I also want to say a huge thank you to everyone who has watched the ads already, been a regular viewer, donated on Venmo, tipped with SuperThanks, or just commented or liked a video. It means the world to me and to Miss Gracie, of course. I'm wishing everyone the best as always. Please take care, and I hope to see you in my next reading. Hey group 3, last but not least, welcome to your reading. So we have the Enchantress, which is the Magician in this deck. We have the Sovereign, which is the Emperor. We have Death, we have Swan, Graceful Transformation, Soften Your Heart and Find Your Flow. We have She Who Persists, Jocelyn, Perspective, Defiant, Persistent. And we also have Gentleness here. I will say what I'm immediately drawn to with your cards here. We have Death, and then that sentiment is echoed in the Swan card because Death talks a lot about transformation. It's Pluto's Scorpio energy. And we see this person, walking on a pile of skulls here. And we see like the bleeding roses, right? And then I'm also drawn to this idea of persistence and being next to this Gentleness card. And you know how water flows over rocks, and over time, the force of that water, as hard as a material as a rock or a stone is, it will shape those stones over time, the force of that water. And so I feel like there's so much about your energy where you have faced these emotionally intense situations. And it may have been like a chronic thing where, sometimes in life we're tested by very, like tower moments, right? Like things that come in and just kind of quickly devastate us. But other times in life, it's that having to get up every day and face difficult circumstances that are tolerable but are not ideal. So having to get up every morning and live in a place where you're not happy, or having to get up every morning and go to a job where you feel like you aren't appreciated, or there's a lot of workplace drama, or your supervisor is like verbally abusive. Just having to get up every day, even when you feel depressed or anxious or mentally unwell, just having to get up every day and live that life that doesn't feel good for whatever reason. It's like the frog in the water, and we're turning up the heat, turning up the heat, turning up the heat. And how long can that frog tolerate that heat, right? And so that's shaping you. That kind of like chronic stress shaping you. And still you persist. Still you keep getting up. Even though mentally, emotionally, it's taking everything just to get through the day. I think when we look at that over time, that's almost worse than those big devastating tower moments. I feel like there's a whole story they see in your eyes. And I know that's dramatic to say, but there's something about the look on her face in this persistence card where you can just see it even there, like the eyes of someone who has endured too much and had to heal and heal and heal, transform, transform, transform. I think that something about your eyes, you look older than you are. Your eyes have more wisdom than they should have. You've been through too much for someone of your age. So there's something about you where they have such a respect for you. They're like, they're telling me, like, before we talk about why I'm attracted to them, let's talk about why I respect them. I mean, I almost feel like maybe they have had an easier life than you, or maybe they've come from a privileged background. Maybe they've lived a charmed life in some way. They're successful, but they acknowledge, like, I had some help. Or maybe it's just compared to you, they haven't had certain experiences. And you may be someone where you have like a chronic illness, and maybe that's why it was so hard maybe just to get up, and get through the day. Because if you're living with a chronic illness, I can only imagine, our health is something that we just take for granted. When our health is good, a lot of us don't appreciate it. I've been guilty of that, Like, I always think about whenever I hear someone who has like a chronic condition like that, it puts it back into perspective of like, wow, I'm so fortunate, So it could be something like that, where it's like they've always had good health, but you have had to live with this chronic condition. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a physical condition, it could be mental, like mentally you have struggled with something, or you've had to learn how to cope with something like depression that can be very debilitating. I won't name every mental health disorder under the sun, but if you have one, So yeah, it could be something like that as well. But they just want to say that, like, I have so much respect for you. Because I don't know if I could have that kind of strength, that kind of persistence. I don't know if I could have it, because I've never been tested in that way. I used to think I was so strong, and until I met you, and then I saw what real strength looked like. So yeah, I think that they just want to say that to you before we even get into the rest. Like, I have so much respect for you. So much respect. And that means something, because I do feel like this Emperor is your future spouse. That means something coming from the Emperor. I have respect for you. Because that's not something that they would say lightly, or that they would say to everybody. And maybe you don't see that about yourself. Maybe you don't see your strength, but they see it. And I do think that, and you may push back from this a little bit, but I do think there's a part of them that wants to take care of you, that wants to protect you, because they just feel like you deserve to rest. Like, you deserve some gentler, easier chapters in your life. Like, you've dealt with so much. You've had to handle so much. Let me take care of you. This could even be like you've had to be the responsible one in like your family, like maybe you were the eldest sibling who had to take care of their younger siblings because their parents had to work, or they were raised by a single mother. This could play out in so many different ways, but they just want to say, like, I respect you. I respect that you get up and you carry all this around with you. And I respect how you've had to heal and work through things. I respect how maybe you had to grow up faster than, what a child should have to grow up, Maybe that's what this comes from, like you having to kind of forego having a typical childhood because your parents needed you to be mature. They needed you to be an adult when you were still a child. Okay, group 3, I finished your whole reading and then I realized it stopped recording at some point. So if I repeat any messages or if the reading feels disjointed, I do apologize. I also got some grab bag messages for you guys at the end of the reading. So unfortunately, you're not going to see me pull those on camera because I already pulled them. So we will just read those at the end. I do apologize. I can't stand when this happens. But anyway, it is what it is. We're going to do our best here to make sure you still get all of the messages. So I think where I ended was kind of basically describing or discussing this respect that they have for you, and how your future spouse really wanted to make that clear before we kind of get into why they're attracted to you, because to them, the respect is everything. And I think that it kind of comes from this idea that they have been with partners in the past where they didn't have that respect. And I think for your future spouse, they're very much coming through as this emperor. For them, respect is everything. So from their perspective, it's easy to fall in love. It's easy to fall out of love. And at the end of the day, you can have all of the love in the world for somebody, but if there isn't mutual respect, well, that love doesn't really matter, because the relationship is not sustainable. You can't stay with someone who doesn't respect you, even if they love you, because then how can I love myself and be disrespected by somebody? How can that be? And so maybe your future spouse has dealt with people who were lying, people who were using them, people who didn't have like the best of intentions, or just people who were maybe so privileged that they were ignorant in some way. And it's like, I just don't have a lot of respect for you. Or I don't feel like you have a lot of respect for me, but there's some issue there with the respect. And so I think that that's why that matters so much to them, that they respect you and that they feel like you respect them. There's that mutual respect. And I was talking about before, it reminds me of that line. I think it's from Franny and Zoe. It's a short story that they turn into a book, but there's a line that says something like, I can love a lot of people, but I wish I could meet someone I could respect. And so that's kind of the vibe here, where they can see it in your eyes. Because I'm very much drawn to this persistence card. There's something in your eyes where you look wiser than you should be. Like you look like you have wisdom beyond your years. Something about your eyes telling a story. And they're very intrigued by your gaze, and like, I'm drawn to you and I want to know your story and I want to know more. And there's this side of you where it's like, there's a bit of a mystery there. And the word concealment comes up. And I talked about, and I apologize if I'm repeating myself, but we had talked about this idea of even the way that you dress. Maybe you wear like drapey, flowy fabrics, or you're a more modest, conservative dresser. You don't wear super revealing clothing. Or maybe you wear your hair up a lot. You don't wear it down a lot. But just something there about concealment. And they're very drawn to that. They're kind of drawn to this idea that you don't show everything. Even in the way you dress, like you don't show everything. Or the way you style yourself, you don't show everything. So like, I want to know more. And with your future spouse, they can see like, just maybe in the way that you carry yourself, that you've been through things. Sometimes people really do have that energy when you meet them. Like it feels like, it's hard to put it into words, but it feels like they've been through things. And so they like that they have to earn the privilege of hearing your story. And that's part of what attracts them to you, is they sense this about you. And it may be on a subconscious level, but they sense this about you, that you have a story to tell. And they want to know more. And you kind of give it to them piece by piece as they earn your trust. And physically, they think you're gorgeous. They think you're beautiful. I'm hearing head to toe. So you could be exactly their type, or you could have features that they tend to gravitate towards, like a certain eye color, a certain hair color, certain body type, certain facial features that they really like freckles. But something, just pieces of you. Like, I love this, I love that, I love this, I love that. It's like a laundry list, you know? It's like, where should I start? I think you're beautiful. And it's not even just the way that you look. It's the way you carry yourself. They're telling me you have so much grace. The way you move, the way you talk, how forgiving you are of others and of yourself and of life and what life has thrown at you and the cards that life has dealt you, your forgiving heart. And I'm hearing that you have alchemized like lemons to lemonade. You could be someone who has been given the worst of things but has made the best of things. And they like that because it's not like this forced optimism. You know? It's not like you're trying to always see the bright side or always see the silver lining, like you're not forcing yourself. But it's more so you have this sort of acceptance of this is what it is, this is what it has been, but I'm going to keep going and I'm going to make the best of it. Because what else can I do but move forward? And again, like, they respect that. I keep coming back to that word of respect. And I don't think I've talked about this yet. I did in your last reading. But there's this feeling of like they've had it easier than you. What you have dealt with, they have not dealt with. And I don't know if I mentioned this yet, but this could be talking about like you having a chronic illness or you having some sort of chronic condition where it's hard to just get up and go about your day to day. Takes effort, takes strength, takes persistence. And it could be a physical thing, it can be a mental thing. Maybe you have a mental health disorder you have to, live and cope with. But there's just something about they feel like they've had an easier path than you. And they have this recognition that you are partly who you are because of what you've been through. But at the same time, if they're telling me, like, if I could keep you the same, but give you my easier journey, I would. I would walk over with the death card here, like the person like walking over these skulls. I would walk your path and give you mine. I would take the harder journey. If I could do it for you, I would. If I could take away your pain, I would. If I could feel it instead of you having to feel it, I would. Or if you have a chronic condition and you resonate with that message, like if I could take it on and give you my good health, whether it's mental or physical, if I could do that, I would. And it's not because you're not strong enough to carry it, because you've been carrying it. But it's just like, I don't want you to have to do it. I want to protect you. I want to take care of you. I feel terrible. And it's not coming from a place of pity, right? Like, they don't pity you. They're in awe of you. And that's where that respect comes from. They're in awe of you. You're very inspiring to them. You may not feel strong, but they see you as strong. They see you as tough. And I think part of that is also they look at you and they're like, you should be bitter. You should be miserable, right? You should be jaded. But you're not. And they respect that too. There's something about you, like when you look at them, it's funny because you're like a bit of a mystery, right? But they feel like you have this like penetrating gaze, like you look at them and you can see right through them, right? Like you can read them like a book. And I think they kind of enjoy that as much as it kind of freaks them out sometimes. But it's like, I like how well you can read me. I like that I don't have to kind of over-explain myself. I like that you get me. And I like the challenge of trying to understand you. This feels like a very, very deep love. It feels like I love you down to your soul. I love you down to your core. I'll take the best of you and the worst of you because it's you. And I know you take me that way too. And that's that respect again. And I think that they love how you don't feel shame. You know, like some people have been through really horrible things in their life and they feel ashamed. You know, and they may view themselves as victims, or like, you know, they may maybe in some ways convince themselves that they deserved it or they brought it upon themselves. But with you, and maybe some of these scars that you have, I think you're proud. I think you feel like I survived that. And I will say there's definitely this feeling of soulmate energy, like red string of fate energy here, with the way this death card is depicted. I will also say, in terms of physical intimacy here, that may not have been something that was very important to you before, but and you may not have like a love language of physical touch, but I feel like this particular relationship brings that out, you know, brings that side out. I'm trying to keep it PG, but the physical intimacy between you two, very passionate, very intense, and better than what you've had with any prior partners. But I think the emotional intimacy between you two is what kind of feeds into that physical intimacy. I think emotionally, you two really, really connect on that level. And I think it's because your future spouse, with them being the Emperor, there's someone who's very solid, very committed. And the Emperor isn't typically like the most emotionally attuned person, but I think you bring out that more compassionate side to them, because how could they not have compassion after hearing your story? And what I think they're very much drawn to is this idea of life should have maybe really knocked you down and made you bitter and jaded and cold and hard. But with gentleness here, like, you're strong, you're tough, but you're still soft. And there's strength in enduring. And I don't know if I mentioned this with the Swan card, but you have a lot of grace in the way that you walk, in your energy, in your forgiving heart, and they're very much attracted to that. They recognize the strength it takes to forgive. And they see that within you, that you've had to forgive a lot to move on, to heal. So just to kind of summarize before we get into those grab bag messages, they're very much like physically attracted to you off the bat. They just think that you are gorgeous. There is so much physical attraction there. But then as they get to know you, there's that emotional intimacy coming through, that curiosity about you and what you've been through, and they can tell like you're holding stuff back, and they want to earn your trust. They want to get to know you. They see, again, maybe it's subconsciously, but they see like in your gaze, in your eyes, something about your eyes says you've lived this harder life. They can sense that. And then as you start to tell your story and what you've been through and all these things, they see your strength. And they're in awe of you, and they have so much respect for you. And then there's that feeling of protectiveness over you, and things start to heat up, and the passion comes in. So I mean, they are being very honest. Like initially it was that physical attraction, but then it deepens into something more emotionally intense. Okay, now the messages about them. They are successful in their career, which is no surprise with the Emperor. Always think of the Emperor as someone being very successful professionally. Wouldn't be surprised if they, don't own their own business. They want to take care of you. We've talked about that a bit. They have great eyebrows, so you'll really like their eyebrows. They could have straight hair. And one of their love languages is quality time. And they could have blue eyes. Now with these messages here, use your discernment. These are more specific. So if something doesn't resonate, just leave it as always. And I want to thank you all again for your patience. I'm so sorry it cut out. I hate it when it does that. But it is what it is, and hopefully you still enjoyed your reading. Okay. All right, that concludes your reading. I hope it resonated. I hope it brought you some comfort. Please consider liking, commenting, sharing, or subscribing. Hitting the notification bell lets you know whenever I upload. The easiest way to support the channel is to watch the ads. I know they can probably be a little bit annoying, but you can always mute them and just have them on in the background. So I really appreciate anyone who does that as well. I also want to say a huge thank you to everyone who has watched the ads already, been a regular viewer, donated on Venmo, tipped with SuperThanks, or just commented or liked a video. It means the world to me and to Miss Gracie, of course. I'm wishing everyone the best as always. Please take care, and I hope to see you in my next reading.